Q4 is just one day away, and we need to be talking about whether this is going to be a massive trap, or are we going to be repeating history just like in 2023 and just like in 2024? Are we going to be having a massive October and a massive Q4 just like the previous times, or is there going to be something else that we need to be looking at? I have a lot of charts and a lot of data points actually prepared to actually look at what's going to be happening next, and I'm also going to be covering Ethereum. I have a lot of charts and a lot of data points also to be covering for Ethereum, so make sure to be watching till the end. And yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight away into this banger. Bow. So looking at this chart over here, we can see that Q4 has historically been a very bullish quarter for Bitcoin. And you can see over here, looking at the Q4 returns, we've on average had an 85.42% return for Bitcoin and a 23.85% return for Ethereum in Q4, which is extremely bullish. So it's likely, just looking at the probabilities, that we're going to be having a massively green Q4. Now, although this may be likely, we need to be verifying what happened in the previous 2 quarters that led to that massive breakout, and we can look at this chart over here to actually help us with that. You can see in 2023, we had a trendline breakout. We came and retested the trend line, and that's where we went parabolic. You can see over here that we had a small retest at the start of October. So for the first few days, we had a little bit of a pullback before we actually went parabolic, which actually led to people losing hope over here before that massive breakout. And you can see this was the same thing in 2024. In the 1st of October, we had a few days of red before moving parabolic. And right now, we're at some resistance here. So it is possible that maybe we can actually come towards the downside before having a massive Q4 and a massive October. Now, the reason that I am saying this is the fact that we have a CME gap at 110k. So it is likely that Bitcoin can actually fill this gap, since there's a lot of gaps that actually get filled. It's about 95% of all the CME gaps that tend to get filled. But again, I do want to be mentioning that if we don't actually fill up the CME gap by the end of this week, then it may be a case where we don't actually fill it up immediately. You can see over here in November of 2024 was a prime example where you created a CME gap after, having a massive move towards the upside, and you didn't actually fill it until you actually came all the way in towards February. So that's one scenario that could play out. You can see over here also, we have a CME gap that's not filled so far. We've actually gapped up in April of 2025, and we haven't came to actually fill that gap. So these CME gaps tend to get filled a lot of the time, but sometimes it may take a lot longer for it to get filled. And CME gaps essentially are gaps that actually form when you have the weekend and the institutional Chicago Merchandise Exchange is not trading. But essentially, they actually signify strength. So it's not something to be massively worried about, because a CME gap wouldn't form if you didn't have a massive surge in the price. But yeah, it is likely that we do fill this gap. And if we do, I do think that this scenario will be playing out where we actually start to move a bit lower at the start of October. And then that's where we actually start to see some parabolic advancements when everybody flips bearish. Now, in the case that we actually move towards the downside and we have a little bit of a fill of that CME gap, it is likely we can consolidate a bit more in this, symmetrical triangle over here. You can see that we had previous higher lows over here, and we've had lower highs, which just shows that we're converging in towards an apex, and it's likely we're going to get a breakout either to the downside or the upside. But looking at the seasonality, it is likely we break towards the upside, but it's just a case of, are we going to break out immediately, or are we going to fill the gap before actually breaking towards the upside, which is the more likely scenario in my opinion. You can see over here as well that we've actually reclaimed this mid-range level, which is quite bullish. So we do want to see this hold. If we do close the gap, it will be nice to see a wick back up into this mid-range level, and if you can hold it, that's where you're going to be seeing a massive move towards your range highs and potentially new all-time highs. Now, if we zoom out just a little bit, my overall stance is still bullish since we're holding this massive level of support. I'm not going to be flipping bearish until we actually close below decisively, and that's why I'm going to be expecting moves towards the downside. But as long as we actually hold this level of support that was previously resistance, as you can see over here, then I'm going to be massively bullish, and I'm going to be expecting price action towards the upside. Now, one reason is the fact that gold is actually hitting new all-time highs, and Bitcoin actually tends to lag gold. We can see in 2024, just before Q4, we had choppy price action like we're having right now, and gold was moving parabolic. But we can see the Bitcoin actually shortly catched up after gold actually moved towards the upside quite nicely. And we can see right now that we're actually having choppy price action whilst gold rallies, and it's likely that Bitcoin catches up very, very soon. At the time that breakout for Bitcoin, I've actually lagged gold about 8 weeks, and you can see that right now it's actually suggesting that we had a bottom that I covered in the previous videos, and that's exactly what happened. And it's actually showing that the general direction is going to be towards the upside in the near future. So it's actually likely that I'm going to be anticipating a move just like this. So that's one thing that I'm going to be looking at in the longer time frames. But yeah, looking at the seasonality, just to repeat, it is likely that we have a massive Q4 in my opinion, and all the charts are lining up for a massive Q4. It's just a question whether we actually fill the CME gap first or not, and that's going to be delaying this Q4 rally if we do come towards the downside to fill the gap. But essentially, I do think in the longer time frames, we are going to be moving towards the upside. The direction is going to be to the right and upwards. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be thinking for that longer time frame. So if you're enjoying the video and you want to be trading for yourself, make sure to click that first link down below for WEEX. WEEX is actually offering you guys a massive 20% discount on your trading fees, and you can also get a free $100 using that first link down below. You can see over here that you can actually claim that $100 once you actually sign up, and of course you can also deposit some funds onto the exchange and you could be getting 20% bonus on top of that. So if you deposit $10,000, you can be getting $2,000 on top. That's a 20% bonus right there. So I will not be fading this. For example, if you actually deposit $2,000, you'll be getting $400 for free. So if you want to be trading with some free money, make sure to check that first link down below for WEEX to be getting that discount on your trading fees, to be claiming your $100, and of course to be getting that 20% bonus on whatever you deposit. Now looking at Ethereum, right now we're actually in the process of actually confirming this liquidity grab, and right now we're actually tackling this range level over here. So the previous range low that was actually holding the price up that we deviated below, we're actually trying to reclaim right now for Ethereum. And I do think it's likely that we reclaim it. But again, it just depends if Bitcoin's actually going to come down and fill its CME gap over here. And if it does do that, I think Ethereum's going to follow. And potentially we can actually put in a double bottom where this will be the whole deviation of the range. And that's where we can reclaim it, just like we did in our range in and around June, and just like we did in our range in and around August. So it is a process and it does take some time. And if we do actually come and reclaim this range, I do think that we are going to be moving upwards. So the reason that I do think that that's going to be happening is the fact that when we had a dump, we had negative funding rates with a record number of liquidations. This was actually the biggest liquidation spike since 2023. And you can see previously as well, in the previous deviations, we had liquidations also with negative funding rates, and that led to the price actually moving towards the upside. So this is why I'm thinking if we reclaim the range, Ethereum is actually going to be moving parabolic, just like we did in our previous two occasions. Now, if we zoom out for that medium time frame for Ethereum, we can see that we're still holding our range level over here. We're still holding above these highs and turning it into support. So this was previously massive resistance for Ethereum, like you can see over here, and now it's turning into towards support, which is looking really, really good. And you can see over here that we're actually confirming a V bottom break and retest, and that's actually a massively bullish sign for Ethereum. You can see right now that this is the V over here, and we're actually retesting this neckline, which is actually quite good. And typically when you do that, you do move towards the upside. So that's actually looking quite good, since we actually had that fractal actually play out in 2020. We had a V bottom after that dump on COVID, and then we had an area where we actually consolidated for a bit, which was above the neckline, which we're currently doing. And when we started to actually break out, that's where we went parabolic. And I do think that once Ethereum catches some steam, when we reclaim the range and we start to move towards the upside, that's where we're going to be moving parabolic. And when we enter the blue zone, there's not going to be too much time to be accumulating, since prices are going to be pumping. So the time to be doing that is now. And again, the best place to be doing that is WEEX, which is the first link down below, since you'll be getting a massive discount on your trading fees if you're trading with a lot of money. And of course, you have a lot of deposit bonuses over there. But yeah, we're about to close the monthly candle today, and the monthly histogram is going to close as well. And it looks like the Ethereum monthly histogram is going to actually close bullish, since we're actually already seeing that the price action is holding above the support level over here. So that's actually looking quite good. And you can see that Ethereum is still holding this trend line, which is actually quite nice, since we're actually holding our horizontal trend line and we're actually holding our diagonal one also. So it looks like that the strength in Ethereum is going to continue to persist. We're going to see moves towards the upside, since the histogram, the last two times that this happened, had a massive move towards the upside. Now, looking at your altcoins and looking at the seasonality, if we actually enter Q4 and Bitcoin actually decides to be massively bullish, we're going to see our altcoins pump as well and actually move towards the upside. We can compare this to 2023 and 2024, and we can see that we're following this trajectory quite perfectly over here, where right now is the calm before the storm, and very soon we're going to actually enter the storm, and it's going to be towards the upside. It's going to be a positive storm towards the upside. And if that happens, we're going to be seeing this price action towards the trend line, just like in 2017 and 2021, where we actually go parabolic. Right now is the calm before the storm. We're actually waiting for that massive move towards the upside for your altcoins. And I do think that the time to actually accumulate your altcoins is still here. Because if you go on the yearly time frame for your altcoin season index, you can see right now that we're actually still we just left Bitcoin season, and we're actually going to be moving in towards our altcoin season so far. So we're at a 33 mark in the higher time frames, which is still a relatively okay time to be accumulating your altcoins. You still have time, because when we enter the 75 mark, that's going to be a bit too late, and that's where you're looking and questioning whether we're going to be having a cycle top, since all your altcoins are actually going to be massively parabolic already. So right now is a great time to be accumulating, like you can see on this altcoin season index. And yeah, that'll be it from me for today's video. Make sure to be following me on X to be staying up to date with all my updates, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a blessed rest of your day. Peace, guys. See ya. Bye bye.